Welcome to another episode of Equity Mates on AusBiz. We're back for another Tuesday. My name is Bryce, and as always, I'm joined by my equity buddy, Ren. How are you going?
I'm very good, Bryce. I think better than you, judging by how stretched out your leg is.
Ankle is still sore.
Yeah, if you missed yesterday's episode, Bryce has hurt his ankle and hasn't stopped talking about it. We won't bore you with the details a second time around.
Yeah, just watch yesterday's episode.
True.
You'll get all of the details. But look, Ren, we often chat about the opportunities that the equity market presents from an investing point of view. But today we're going to talk about the opportunity about investing in farmland.
Yes.
Land. Yes.
Well, the reason that we want to talk about this is yesterday we came across an article from Katrina King of the Queensland Investment Corporation that was published in the AFR. And it piqued my interest because the clickbait headline was, "We're on the cusp of an Australian agri-boom for the ages."
Okay.
And when you see a headline like that, you're going to click it.
I feel like I've read this headline many times before.
AFR rolled it out again and they've got me.
It's not uncommon, I reckon, in the last many years. I'm not going to put a number to it, but I've certainly seen a very similar headline before. So I guess the question is this time any different? And when we say cusp, how close are we actually talking?
We're always on the cusp if you zoom out on the chart long enough.
Exactly.
So the crux of this article is that the value of Australian agricultural land is about to skyrocket because there's two income streams available. There's the traditional agricultural production income stream, the growing something or harvesting something.
Cows.
Exactly, yeah. That one we don't need to explain.
Yes.
But there's the second income stream from environmental credits. And these are things like Australian carbon credit units, ACCUs, which are, basically carbon offsets.
Yep.
But there's also other things, reef credits, biodiversity payments. I'm not as familiar with those. Basically, the government paying landowners to, abate carbon or to improve biodiversity and the like. And I've actually written an example here, so I'll just give you an example. Yeah. So if I buy an acre of land and I decide to plant trees, timber, for one day, to log it, I have the traditional agricultural production income stream from selling those trees to a sawmill or a lumber company, but then I can also generate ACCUs from the carbon offsets, and the government will pay me I'll be able to sell those ACCUs to the market.
Interesting. So I feel like this would only apply to specific sets of you're not going to be able to get these environmental credits if you're running 200,000 head of cattle.
No, correct. Yeah. But I guess it's the potential of the land.
Yeah. So you've got a double whammy.
Also, don't shoot the messenger because this is all from this AFR
This is
article.
anything I say is directed at Catherine King.
Katrina.
Katrina King of the Queensland Investment Corporation.
But look, you're right. If you're running head of cattle, you're probably not going to, you're definitely not going to get carbon credits, but you could use that land for something else. And so the value of that land is, based on what the most productive use of that land is.
And so is she then saying that the boom is going to actually come from this increase in dual income approach?
Yeah. So
that agriculture in itself is going to go crazy.
Yeah, because people are probably watching this and saying, well, you've just talked about 3 payments that already exist. So why are we on the cusp of the boom? But in Katrina's defense, it's because of all of these climate commitments that are coming up at the moment. So Glasgow in November.
Yeah.
Geez, that's soon.
Yeah.
The World Climate Conference. We expect to see a number of commitments from governments around the world and actions on the back of that. But also, there's more, sustainable funds or ethical investors. Katrina wrote about some fund manager pledge, some net zero pledge that a lot of fund managers are signing. So there's just a lot of pressure moving in that direction. And so I think that's why we're on the cusp of it.
Nice. And is ScoMo doing anything about it? I feel like given the vast amounts of land and agri opportunity we have, if the government actually puts stuff in place, we could be more than cusp.
Yeah, well, this is the week. So this is the week that ScoMo has basically said he's going to broker the deal in his party coalition. Obviously, we've heard a lot of noise from anti-climate action nationals and pro-climate action liberals, especially like the inner city liberals of the Josh Frydenbergs and the Dave Sharmas of the world. ScoMo's got to try and broker a truce, and yesterday he came out and said the way forward is to have a plan, make commitments, but have the rural electorates and people working the land no worse off. And so I'm sure that will include a lot of subsidies and stuff like that. And so again, that potentially helps us be on the cusp of something.
On the cusp of some government action.
But honestly, that's all conjecture until we actually see what the plan is.
So I guess, what are we seeing around the world though? Because, this is not the first time that, we're seeing a lot of land being brought up.
Were you about to say this isn't the first time someone's invested in farmland?
But we're seeing some of the big dogs overseas investing in a lot of land.
Yeah, so Bill Gates was recently ousted as the largest farmland owner in the US.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. It's almost 300,000 acres of farmland is how much he's bought in the last 10 years. Still a tiny fraction of total farmland in the US. Warren Buffett acquired a 400-acre corn and soybean farm in the 80s. His quote at the time was, this investment in agriculture had no downside and potentially had substantial upside.
There you go.
Potentially had substantial upside.
Very interesting.
Yeah. But yeah, like the idea of investing in farmland is pretty common in the investing communities. Meb Faber often speaks about it. And it makes sense. It's a productive asset. It's inflation protected. It's very uncorrelated to a lot of other asset classes.
Pretty cyclical though.
Can be.
And what are the numbers though? Do we have any numbers on actually whether or not it's been a good investment? I know there are a lot of farmers who might otherwise disagree. A lot of the value is in the land, but in terms of cash flow, yield, all that sort of stuff, super cyclical.
Yeah.
What are some of the numbers?
So in Australia, the Australian Bureau of Agricultural and Resource Economics and Sciences, great name for a department.
Nice.
Their numbers say that large-scale farmland in Australia has delivered a 9.7% annual return in the 30-year period between 1980 and 2017.
I think the key word there would be large scale.
Sure.
Yeah.
I think the key number would be 9.7.
Pretty good.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
In the US Department of Agriculture has said that the average price of an acre of US cropland has risen about 75% over the past 15 years.
Yeah. Dad used to be a farmer back in the day, and I was chatting to him about the price of the value of just in here in Australia of land, farmland, and it's just been ballistic. And so why a lot of farmers, anyway, have a lot of money. See it as a good investment.
Jeez, this is the kind of insight you.
I was going to go into like schooling and stuff, but it's just not worth it.
Okay, we'll save that. But look, it's not just the Warren Buffetts and the Bill Gates of the world that can invest in farmland. The great thing is, if this is something that we are interested in, there are ways that we can access it.
John Deere.
Well, funny you say that. There's three sort of ways that, in my mind, that you can invest in farmland or farmland adjacent businesses. So I've labelled them picks and shovels, products, and then the land itself.
Okay, so picks and shovels. If we're not talking products, what are we talking? Like insurance companies.
You literally said one of the companies 2 minutes ago.
Oh, John Deere.
Yeah.
I would have said that would have been a product, though.
Well, we'll get to products in a second.
Oh, okay. So like fertilizers and all that sort of
farm
stuff.
machinery,
Like farm machinery,
equipment, all of that stuff.
Sheds.
Sheds, yeah.
fencing.
Yeah, and there's some really interesting technology being developed here. Internet of Things, precision farming. There's some cool stuff happening. Unfortunately, the funds that I pulled for this are American, so just bear with me. There will be Australian equivalents, but Van Eck have an Agribusiness Etf listed over in the US. 54 stocks in businesses ranging from farm machinery to aquaculture, the picks and shovels play of the agribusiness industry. So that's the first way. Thing is, though, if the farmland itself is becoming more valuable, you're not really exposed to it by doing the picks and shovels.
Well, the economics of this is if the land becomes more valuable, the farmer is more likely then to go and upgrade the tractor, buy a new plane.
Well,
that's where that sort of stuff comes in. But when you think about and that's kind of what I was going to touch on before, is more of their land goes up in value, but the economics behind all of that as well is they actually have to take more and more debt because the cash flow and the cyclical nature of it all, and so they borrow it against the land.
Yeah.
But anyway, there you go.
Okay, so that's the first category, picks and shovels. That's one way to think about investing in this area. Second one is products. And for me, what products are the things that are created on the farm.
Gotcha.
So the commodities.
The cattle,
Yeah. And so again, American fund, I'm sure there's Australian equivalents, but also most of our brokerages these days allow us to invest in the US. Investco DB Agriculture Fund is a ETF, but that buys commodity futures for a broad range of farm products, everything from coffee to cotton, cattle, everything in between. And so that's one way to invest in the output of farms. But again, not that correlated to the value of the land.
No.
Yeah.
It's just a supply and demand play.
Yeah, and incredibly cyclical and tough business a lot of the time.
Well, that begs the question, what if you do want the land play?
Yeah, save the best till last.
Save the best till last. So
there's REITs, real estate investment trusts that you can buy that are solely focused on farmland. So an example from the US, again, Farmland Partners owns more than 150,000 acres of US farmland across 16 states.
It's about half of what Gates owns.
Good point. Yeah. And then there's a few in Australia. I haven't had a proper look, but a quick Google. Vital Harvest, Agricultural Land Trust were two names that popped up. I'm sure there are more. But if you agree with Katrina King, you think that we're on the cusp of an agri-boom for the ages, you probably want to go the direct route and look at the real estate investment trusts that actually own farmland.
Yeah, but not only that, go the next level and find these land that can actually take advantage of the dual income.
Yeah.
Or a setup, I guess, I don't know what would be less risky is if you're just going to say, I'm going to buy a heap of land and just plant thousands of trees and just keep taking all this income from offsets. Or I'm going to buy this land and run a herd of cattle. I don't know what the maths is behind that, but you feel like if you can get one that runs both, all the better. Yeah. Or get one that does half-half.
Again, I feel like if you want to actually do the work and figure this out, the next minute of this episode isn't going to be the place to start.
No.
But yeah,
it's interesting.
You do the maths, you figure it out. And I guess it's a why can't you have both, I'm sure there are, in some areas there's economies of scale, in some there's diseconomies of scale, and there's just another revenue stream that you can tap into.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Well, that does bring us to the end of our episode today. Plenty going on in markets as always. Pretty fascinating how the dynamics of climate change and what's going on in government is now changing the way that we think about investing in what I guess has been a very old school investment, farmland, and now how it's changing and creating new investment opportunities. So we will be back tomorrow with our Watch List Wednesday with a pretty interesting guest who has a focus on founder-led businesses.
Yep.
Is that right?
That's right.
Perfect. And if you want more of what we're doing at Equity Mates, you can head to equitymates.com or send us an email at contact@equitymates. But otherwise, Ren, we'll be back tomorrow.
Sounds good.